just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
The police station, before they even leave, they take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
As the sun sets, so are we live here on Global Morning. Hello and welcome to the morning show. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining us and beginning your day with us live here on the program. A lot of concern are still about the state of the nation and the happenings around the world. Do not forget, just yesterday, Ghana witnessed its inauguration of its new president after the election that John Mahama was re-elected into office. President Tinubu was in attendance as a special guest of honor, of course, as the chairman of ECOWAS. He had made some commitment reassuring Ghana's Nigeria's relation as well. And after the inauguration, the president was back to the country again to continue away from the Christmas break and the New Year Eve that the president had took some leave, and now he's back to Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, to begin and of course to look at the more pressing issues in the country. Well, away from all of that, there are a lot of takeaways from the Ghana's inauguration yesterday. It's still a conversation of so many persons because looking at the fact that Ghana had to witness its first ever vice president inaugurated. It was a quite good moment for African women when we continue to look at the aspect of what it means for Africa to witness that. So Jane Nana was sworn in as Ghana's first vice president. So as that country is concerned, she is the 24th female elected president or vice president, will you call it, in Africa. There is still an issue, a concern about the conversation about the gender equality, inclusivity of women in politics. That really stood out for the people of Ghana yesterday as a witness, Nana sworn in as the first vice president of that country. Because Africa has about 3 acting presidents, 6 elected presidents, 15 vice presidents for female. And this has continued to look at the increasing number of women participation in politics, most especially in Africa. And the questions about Nigeria, how inclusive is still the Nigerian politics for women? A concern about how we can continue to make the political arena more friendly to the other gender, so as to continue to have a lot of that conversation. Nigeria on their part are doing their best. We've also seen inclusivity of women by level of quotas from political parties, always giving some preference to some female candidacy. But a more robust concern, engagement as well as involvement are still a major concern for many African countries. And of course, kudos to Africa, Ghana, for witnessing that being a very unprecedented action that we're taking right there. And a lot of a concern about how these will make women to feel some sense of belonging in Africa. What it therefore also means is that a lot of expectation on the part of government on how she will be the first vice president in Ghana's history. She will begin to hit the ground running and setting the template for other women in the region. It's still a major concern, and of course that really stood out for many African countries, as a lot of persons were looking at the achievement so far. It's seen as an important milestone. It was a conservative when it comes to gender representation in politics. Of course, she is also a professor of literature, the former minister of education, who was first nominated as Mama's Running Mate in 2020. She's been around the political arena of Ghana until her emergence, becoming the first woman to appear on a major political party's presidential ticket in Ghana. Her nomination in 2024 and the victory today has solidified a place in history. John Mahama is still having some concern returning to the presidency after 7 years, taking over from Nana Akufo, who defeated him in 2017. So a lot of persons said Mahama faces a lot of challenges of tackling youth unemployment. The concern about all of that is still a major concern. Economy was still. He said, I will hit the ground running from day one. Ghanaians are still looking at how they can continue to look at what it means for them to continue to look at the concern about what he's bringing to the table, doing differently from Nana, now that he's actually had the second chance to live to expectations. He said he's trying to reset the economy of Ghana. He's trying to reset, some wrongs already that were happening within the country in terms of the management of the resources, the corruption in the country and that region as well. So it's coming in with a lot of experience as the first time in that office, but would that really get things to work? Would experience really matters? This is where the Ghanaian has still having expectations and putting their eyes to watching the government of the day as he has just been sworn into office. Don't forget that around 67 of Ghanaian support for political equality for women, and now the importance of Opoku's rise to the presidency. There's a lot of conversation about how that was a major concern for the people of Ghana, having the issues about gender equality, the conversation about the people of Ghana really having a concern towards what it means as the new leadership takes office. Ghanaians are looking forward to a fresh chapter in the governance and looking at the promises of inclusivity and progress that this may record for the people of Ghana. We may say kudos to Africa. Africa is rising. Africa, is trying to also tap into the world to know how we can make the political arena more inclusive for every gender, irrespective of the male or female agenda as well. So a lot of concern about how we can continue to make our political arena better. But more lessons, it looks like it's a political comeback for John Mahama. The integrity of the electoral umpire is one concern. The resilience of the people of Ghana resisting what external force, even irrespective of the economic factors, did not shape their motives in respect to the election. We didn't record the issues of vote buying in the election. We didn't record issues of ballot boxes snatching. Well, we didn't record much issues of threats, and all of that has showed how Africa and Ghana had to also enhance the electoral process, which is still a lessons left for all African countries to still learn from when we look at the conversation about our elections, how elections is being done, how it's been tackled, how development have been tracked, and all of that. It really clearly had opened a lot of rise of hopes to Africa that I think we are getting it right. If Ghana are getting it right and many countries are getting it right, definitely all countries in Africa will continue to get it right, because democracy is really having a space in the region, and the dividends of the democracy is what always really matters for the people. Can government continue to give back to the people? Can they fight corruption to a standstill? Can they close all the loopholes where mismanagement of our resources are carried away? Can they prioritize the welfareism of people? Can they tackle the issues of unemployment ravaging the region? The concern about the state of education, how we can get our educational right in Africa, this is still topmost. And the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was at the inauguration yesterday, also had extended voices to all African leaders on the need to tackle the problems of Africa. For the President, he said it is high time the African leaders begin to solve the problems of Africa, and also raise a commitment to continue to make more robust support for the people of Ghana and John Mahama on his return to the presidency. A lot of how these can work, and the relation between Ghana and Nigeria is still a major concern. Recently, Ghana also declared visa-free for some African countries in a major bid to also address many of the economic factors and issues that is being shared within this region. Kudos to the people of Ghana, and congratulations to John Mahama for returning to the Oval Office again as a second timer. Just again having another 4 years to do well and to do better for the people of Ghana, and of course other African countries are really jubilating and of course extending a lot of concern towards the politics of Ghana. All right, everyone. We'll still continue to look at the concern about Nigeria, the state of concern, the economy as well, and to 2025 budget. A lot of a conversation, as the Senate will be a resumption later next week, a lot of concern about what it means for budget 2025, the implementation of those budgets and the itemization, the allocations as well. What may be the major concern over the budget? People are still having talks about it. What has 2024 budget yielded? What are the results and the possible projection that this may have for 2025? How will government begin to also handle the issues of debt servicing? How would they even handle issues of revenue generation? Is still a major concern and interaction on the space, and of course on the show this morning we'll be enlightening on that. And of course looking at the issues of welfareism of retired service chiefs, retired security agencies. Government and President Tinubu's administration is making moves to prioritize seeing how they can reward those who have served the country. It looks that that may be an encouraging and a booster as well for some of our armed forces, and the presidency has also made some packages on the show this morning. We'll be enlightening those concerns. Would this reset the challenges and the issues of welfareism, reward system? Would you say reward system in the country? Because sometimes they said bamboo the rug. And others are actually taking it away. So the concern of fair sharing in the country, when you look at the issues of welfareism, prioritization of welfare of those who are serving the nation, who are sticking their lives to the nation, who are committed in contributing to the better of this nation. All of that, we'll continue to look at that as what is the motive of the presidency. Would this begin to be a way of addressing patriotism and participation of everyone into getting Nigerians to face? Is still a concern. And of course, the National Association of Nigerian Students has also kicked against the distribution of CNG buses to universities. A lot of interaction about what it means for the federal government to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. The CNG buses that were ordinary was meant to be everywhere. How many people have access to CNG buses? How many people also have the concern? And it looks like some students are making some move, kicking against the distribution. It looks like there are a lot of we said the fair sharing has not really been upheld, and so they're kicking against it. For student, government said they've granted student loan as this addresses many issues of the student. That has still also raised concern on the show this morning. I'll be joined by a former Senate President who will be joining us on the show this morning to also analyze some of these things. What are the concerns of the Nigerian student as the student loan not being allowed, the CMG buses? How better did they want the government to handle that? That we will discuss top on the show this morning on Global Morning. For now, everyone will go on a very quick break, and once we return from the break, we're looking at the national dailies for you this morning. What are the headlines saying? What are the big stories? What are the concerns? Sit tight with us. I'll be right back.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current...
Many thanks everyone for still staying with us here on Global Morning. A lot of concern about the national dailies, but let's begin with this day for you this morning. On the front page of this day newspaper, Adola tax reforms bills presentation altered January to December budget cycle tradition. Writer says a global survey revealed trust issue in tax system. You can actually find that story on page 5 of this day newspaper. A lot of concern about the tax reform, the conversation about the deficit of trust within the path of government and what government is doing, the concern about government to reform the taxation system and addressing all of those items that the bill really has as a content is still a major concern. But even when people said it's a fantastic bill, they have also pushed a concern about consultation, proper negotiation of cases of derivation, VAT, increase of VAT from 7.5 to about 10%, really spark a lot of concern. Those have said, look, it has now turned into an ethnic battle. Can we begin to deal on the issues and not try to be sentimental about is it favorable to the north, is it favorable to the south, and all of this concern? What are really the contents of the bill? This is where many have said, can we begin to look at those content of the bill away from just, throwing the baby out of the bath? So can we have those concern and highlights of the day? But it really looks at a lot of persons are still having a diverse opinion. Governors from the Northern Governors Forum had a dissecting opinion. And Taiwo has continually said, we are open for negotiation, we are open for more consultation so as to have a proper education over these tax reform bills. And that has been the reactions of that. So it really looks at what really has revealed is about the trust issue in the tax reforms. But you can get those stories and of course track what that opinion really has for you this morning right there from this day newspaper. Now in 2024, police dismantle 5,049 malicious domains of cybercrime syndicates in Nigeria. That's reports indicating the efforts of the Nigerian police force to dismantling over 5,049 malicious domains and a cybercrime syndicate in the country. Tinubu leads Obasanjo Jonathan orders to Mahama's inauguration. Our president expresses readiness to work with Ghana leader. West African countries get first vice president. Still on page 9 of this day newspaper, former President Obasanjo, former President Goodluck Jonathan, were all present as well with President Tinubu at the inauguration of John Mahama as the president of Ghana. Readiness to work with Ghanaian leader was the commitment and the reassuring statement coming from President Tinubu. A lot of lessons to learn from the first vice president of Ghana. Can we get that in Nigeria? Can we get that in other African countries? Can we prioritize gender inclusivity, female gender inclusivity in the politics? That's really major. A lot of hopes that have been raised as well in respect to the inauguration of the first vice president of Ghana Republic. There's a picture right there. There's a president having a handshake with Mahama at the inauguration, and of course we also have Governor Eno visit Premium Trust Bank that's in the capital city of Akwa Ibom, Uyo, right there on the front page as well. This day newspaper. You can actually get more details on the depth of the newspaper, as well as having a lot of concerns that have been raised right there. But let's move over to the Guardian newspaper. Let's flip over to the Guardian newspaper this morning. A lot of talks concerning about also what the big stories. As right there on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning, investors eye new listings as 10 players control 54% of AGS and 63 trillion naira. That's a report owing to the issues of investment and the players controlling what it really means for investors and of course there's also a projection for 2025 in the country. You can find that story on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper as well. The top equities and valuation: Dangote Cement, Boa Foods, MTN, Boa Cement, Transcorp, Zenith, GTO. That's a report having some top equities valuation. And of course a projection of over 63 trillion naira and a control of over 54% with these top 10 valuations and companies. You can find that on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Ibadan Stampede, courts to rule on bail request of Oni's ex-wife and orders January 13th. That's on page 7. It's still a very more sad and emotional moment for the families of those who were participants, who are also in a way of extending some hands to vulnerable Nigerians, which unfortunately are turned tragic. Police on the other side, they have to answer questions. They were arrested. Applications for granting of bail has been now adjourned to January 13th. But the big concern over these issues were how we can properly manage, palliative distributions, even when we have good intentions as well. So that, those are said, good deeds shouldn't end one in a bad note. And these were just what those who had more were trying to do, giving it back to the society as well. But very sadly, some kids lost their life in this process, and record tragic. And it's still a sad moment for some family of these ones. And of course, we still want a situation where lessons can be learned from that to avoid future occurrences in terms of palliative distribution in the country, and as well as managing also. Of course, government will also understand that this is also a signal as well due to the economic hardship. People are scrambling for what to eat, to struggle of what to get, and all of that. So can we begin to also pay attention to the economy so that we can reduce the hunger in the country, and of course to have more Nigerians have the power to purchase so as to reduce all of these hunger crises in the country. And despite privatization, 751.7 billion naira on wires, transformers, street light and others. They're concerned about the state of electricity, and despite the privatization, federal government to spend 751.7 billion naira on wires, transformers, street lights and others. These has continued to raise questions to discourse over the issues of electricity in the state of the country. That's really on the page 6. You can get more details on that and track what it means for federal government to now allocate 751.7 billion naira just to get wires, just to get transformers, as well as street light and others. What are the benefits of the privatization? If government said we'll privatize, the electricity distribution as well, we still have a control of transmission, but distribution with privatizing. What is the benefit of What are the benefit of privatizing these? These are many Nigerians have raised questions over that, and some experts in this sector are really having a concern. What is the sustainability of this act if government continue to get wires and transformers as well as street light? What are the duties of discos? What are they doing on their own part? Are they just after increasing issues of electricity bills and tariffs? Are they just making business? Are they just here in the country to make business and to just make the Nigerians? I don't know, also paying attention to transformers. Some, communities, some villages, some streets are total blackout. They're concerned about issue of transformer, concerned about wiring. Yes, we understand this may be attributed to some factors like the vandals and all of that, but can they also be always taking responsibility over these? And this is where we will have a concern. But for now, government said they are allocating 751.7 billion naira. That is over 751.7 billion naira just to get the wires and transformers and street lights, restoring those back to some streets that are in total blackout in the country for the 2025 budget. Our ICT moves to collect council revenue stirs protests. ICT making moves to collect council revenues. Stirs a lot of protests on page 5. The Federal Capital Territory. And the earlier raised 18,500 and seizes 26 million kg of drugs in 2024. That's a report coming from Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency over, the arrest they made in the year 2024, seizing over 26 million kg of drugs just in 2024. Very kudos and good effort so far, but the loopholes and how this is being done, how all of this is continuing to be on the high side should also be in check. You can find our story on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper as well as to catch more stories right there. And I will also have Tinubu Obi held Ghana's democratic progress. A lot of pledges support urge renewed African unity. That's on page 3, still on the Ghana's presidential inauguration. A lot of major concern about how that means, what it means for the progress for Africa in terms of the democracy, which others have continued to extol the effort made by the electoral umpire of Ghana for the free, fair, conducive election, transparent election, and of course also the fact that the politicians in Ghana were also able to concede to defeat, not necessarily running to courts as what is always the case in Nigeria every after election cycle. We also have a lot of litigations filling the courtroom, which will still be, a lot of also how we've also reduced much of our electoral process back to the courtroom. In a way of seeking redress, sometimes you're not sure of winning, they just want to go to court as well. But in Ghana set a template. We saw how the vice president was able to concede to defeat of John Mahama and accepting defeat as well, extending congratulations, as well as the inauguration. It was live there at the inauguration ceremony as well, also extending hands of commitment and assuring of cooperation, which was the beauty of democracy just yesterday. And of course, we're still looking at the democratic progress here in Ghana, in Africa. Now the Ghanaians have also continued to show that it can be done in Africa. Other countries as well here in the region can as well queue behind to see how they can also get the democratic principles and the processes work better in this region. We want to turn our attention to our Daily Trust. The front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Borno attack, many soldiers missing as death toll rises. That special report about many soldiers that are missing over the Borno attack. A lot of a tragic, still a major concern over the northwest region, where we also have rising cases of insecurity, the rises of other terrorist groups as well. And government on the other end said, we are getting this fight done. The National Security Advisor has also made some commitment for the year that look, this is our battle. And of course, collectively we can get all of this. We can defeat the enemies of this region. But we will have cases where some soldiers are still missing, and the death toll is still being increased. This still is a major task for the armed forces to continue to tackle. And of course, our hearts and our concern and our prayers as well are still with the armed forces in a bid to addressing all of their concern. Abuja school bombing, case of international interest. That's police report. It was a tragic school bomb exploded and some lives were lost, and there are those that were badly injured yesterday earlier, and the police has given some reports about that incident is confirming that it looks that it was a case of international interest. You can actually find that story on page 20, page 20 of the Daily Trust newspaper, and read more on that allegations made by the police, what it means for international interest and the bombing and the loss of life of those innocent ones as well who were also within those vaccines. NFF appoints Malian Chile as Super Eagles coach. That's Super Eagles now has a new coach. A lot of it was a major expectation as far as 2025 AFCON is concerned. A lot of concern about how Super Eagles needed not just to have an interim coach, but this time to have our own coach getting and NFF have just ratified that appointment of Emmanuel Chile as Super Eagles coach. On the show this morning on the Talk Sports, that conversation will be ongoing right here on Global Television. So keep on sitting tight on the show at the top of 10 a.m. That concern and conversation will be coming right here on the show. And Atiku's men, El-Rufai, most of others meet Social Democratic Party leaders. Page 13 of the Daily Trust, a lot of talks concerning the former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, in the state of the nation. His silence over some politics and some political motive as well. Is he decamping from APC? And he came out and said, look, I have not defected. But he never really assured if he's still a member of All Progressive Congress. He only said, I have never defected. Disregard the rumor. And just yesterday, pictures of him at the national headquarters of the Social Democratic Party had emerged, and a lot of talks is still ongoing politically. If this is what it means, Atiku man, Shehu was right there with El-Rufai, Mustafa, others were able to converge at the Social Democratic Party headquarters here in Abuja, and that has continued to spark some political conversation. Is that a move for emerging and all of that? We'll continue to track that report and knowing fully well what it means for El-Rufai, the former governor of Kaduna State, as far as the politics of Nigeria is concerned. It still holds some opinions. Many Nigerians are still looking forward to hearing what he feels about Tinubu's presidency as well as the state of the nation. But that was El-Rufai yesterday at the Social Democratic Party headquarters. Though nothing has been well disclosed about what was the motive of his visit to the headquarters of the Social Democratic Party. But as far as the report comes in, we'll always bring that to you on the speed. And away from the Daily Trust, we'll now turn our attention to Vanguard. On the front page of Vanguard newspaper, we also have some reports how lack of power, water, Japa declares health sector. That special report is on page 14. A writer says exodus, shortage of healthcare workers persist. Healthcare system faces challenges in service delivery due to accountability issues. Lack of funds for healthcare remains a big problem. Government's ability to equip hospitals, buy essential medicines and supplies, run effective public health programs remain limited. That's a report x-raying the state of the health sector in Nigeria, the exodus, the shortage of healthcare workers, which is still on a high percent in the country. Healthcare system challenges, service delivery, accountability issues have been raised, lack of funding for healthcare, which is still a big problem, government ability to equip hospitals and buy essential medicines and supplies, issue of running effective public healthcare programs is still very limited. And that report highlights all of those sectors, which will be a good read to know fully well the condition and the situation of our healthcare. It really also a priority on the government of President Tinubu. As far as 2025 budget is concerned, they've also raised concern about prioritizing the health. Can all of the locations, can all of these increase of budget for health be fully utilized and implemented? Is that a question of many, and of course we'll still try to know what this government may do differently in tackling the health situation. Japa syndrome is still on the high side. The primary health care center is deserted, and a lot of issues of the rising cost of medicine. Some Nigerians are still struggling in how to purchase some major drugs at essential. What are the causes of all of these rises of medicine? That's our report covers all of that and expresses the proper situation and the state of the health sector in Nigeria. Around Tinubu approves allowances, bulletproof SUVs for retired generals. That's on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. On the show this morning, we'll be showing that to concern retirement benefit for some generals and the commitment for also issues of all the workers' welfareism, the situation generally about workers' welfareism in Nigeria. We'll be looking at that. No state has excuse not to pay 70,000 naira minimum wage. That's some level of reactions as well. Concern about 70,000 naira minimum wage. Can some state pay and some state not have the capacity to pay? This says no state has excuse not to pay. It means that allocations have been increased. You have no excuse not to implement 70,000. Even when some states are doing 85, some states are doing 80,000. But some states are still not making any commitment to the 70,000 minimum wage. Because even on the sad note, the 33,000 was also fully implemented by some states. But now that it has probably been signed, not just as it has also become an act of law for 70,000 to be the minimum wage within this first period. A lot of concern have been raised. Can some state not pay? Can some state have capacity to pay? Can some state not have the capacity not to pay? But it looks that no state can be spared from all of this because allocations have also been increased, as well as the tensions being raised over these issues. As well, you can find that story on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper and have a proper validation to that story. Obi, Atiku, Labour Party blasts APC. A writer says, I didn't threaten your life. Stop telling lies. APC spokesman tells Obi on page 23. A lot of back and forth threat of war between the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and APC National Public Secretary who has been concerned. APC National Public Secretary also described presidential candidate of Labour Party as a prophet of the loom, a lot of which has sparked generated concern. But what does that really mean? One who doesn't want things to work, one who doesn't really wish the country well. Would that be the concern that was raised by the presidential candidate of Labour Party recently on his address over the state of the nation? APC National Public Secretary did not spare any words from the Labour Party presidential candidate by virtue of countering all of his opinion, restrain the state of the nation, that things are working. But Obi was in a way saying that government must pay attention to the economy. He had challenged President Tinubu to also take a walk to all the state on the road. He should also visit, not just relying on the reports that have been sent by some ministers, reports sent by some of his appointees. The president should have first-hand feelings of the situation of the roads in Nigeria, should have first-hand feelings about the economy as well as the impact of all of the reforms of this government. But APC National Public Secretary had countered a presidential candidate of Labour Party saying that, look, this might be a political motive. He's sounding like the prophet of the doom. He does not care if things should work in the nation. And the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, had come out to say, look, I've been threatened and all of that. And there's still a major description of what the APC National Public Secretary had said towards the presidential Labour Party, the presidential candidate of Labour Party. And Atiku has also waged into the war, blasting APC over their commentary against Mr. Peter Obi. Our livestock development headers can't afford ranches. Mayor T. allowed us in page 27. Tinubu Mahama's inauguration. We will lift our people out of poverty. That's part of the statement of President Tinubu that is well captured on page 9 of the Vanguard. He's saying we will collectively lift our people out of poverty. A lot of hopes raised by the President Tinubu as well as John Mahama in terms of tackling some similar concern of Ghana and Nigeria, which has to do with economy and inflation as well. And President Tinubu said we will lift our people out of poverty. And that's on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Nigeria at moderate risks of human virus. That has been raised. I saw some report of NCDC. A gunman abducted 46 in Sanfara community. That's on page 6 as well of the Vanguard newspaper. How corruption allegations led to suspension of local government chairman. Governor of Edo State Republic reacting that It's really a case of corruption, embezzlement that led to the suspension of these local government chairmen, which is still a back and forth case between the PDP and APC that region as well. A lot of concern about the independent capacity of the local government as well over the autonomy that have been granted to the local government. Can still continue to have some influence for the local government? Can they also allow the local government to independently also work as well? But the case study of Edo State has to do with APC in power and some PDP are in power in the local government. So they have disagreed. Those have described that to be some political war as well. But the governor is saying, look, it's not a personal war. It's the issues of corruption. It's the issues of embezzlement. These are triggered via suspension. It's still a back forward and some court interpretation as well into the matter. We now turn attention to the Nation newspaper this morning. On the front page of the Nation, a French Malian Chile takes over Super Eagles coach. Takes over Super Eagles coach. That is on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. And the court reserves ruling in Oni's ex-queen Hamzat's bail application. World Court killings 19 arrested. 573,000 applicants going for 397 custom jobs. Budget defense fails to take off. That's on page 3. ICPC arranged El-Rufai's chief of staff for alleged money laundering. That's on page 3. Tinubu to world leaders, change your negative view about Africa. Rada says, we are working hard for prosperity of the people. Mama steps in, promises reforms. That's still from the Ghanaian inauguration of President John Mahama and the reassuring statement and words from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's saying that African leaders should begin to have negative view about Africa and that things are definitely positive views. The things are definitely gonna work. They should change from the negative view and have a positive view about Africa, and that things are getting better and things are definitely gonna work. And that was one of the statements, part of the statement made by President Tinubu just yesterday. We also have oil prices surge, oversupply, disruption. That was a projection for as well. 2025, it looks that there's a surge in prices of oil, of some cases of disruption as well. You can find that story on page 4 of the Nation newspaper and catch more headlines and reports right there. You can also see from the Ghanaian President John Mahama, President Tinubu with the former President Obasanjo, President Tinubu with former President Jonathan as well. They were able to have to meet at that ceremony as well, having some handshakes and the talks of the gatherings of other African leaders who had witnessed that inauguration of the Republic of Ghana. And on the flip side, we now turn our attention now to the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, which is going to be the last paper for today on these reviews. Bandit influx. Task force meets as American police tighten southwest boundaries. Oyo security chiefs hold closed-door meeting in Ibadan. Ondo Osun orders review strategies. Also have threats to life. Atiku LP carpets Tinubu, APC lamboons Obi. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Forex allocation for fuel imports rise to $1.25 billion. That report is on page 30. Tax reform. Northern elders, governors maintaining opposition as senators lobby. issues of the tax reforms. That's right there on page 2. Forex. Food crisis likely as northern farmers opt for exports. Food crisis likely as northern farmers opt for exports. Tinubu calls for Africa's unity. Obasanjo, Zuma attend Mahama's inauguration. These are the picture stories right there on the front page of the Punch as well. PDP divas as Akpobolo accuses local government chairs of 12 billion naira diversion. That's on page 7. Government said based on a diversion of over 12 billion naira, this is the reason behind the suspension, and the PDP has differed from those allegations as well raised by the governor of Edo State in respect to the suspension saga of local government chairman in Edo State. Remarks comes 2 US-based Nigerians face 40-year jail term, and that's on page 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Stampede Oni's ex-queen's orders allege illegal detention. Oyo opposes bail. These are the very few stories right there on the front page of the Punch. You can as well get those papers, have more deep knowledge on these stories, or stay tuned to our news bulletin on the shows, and of course on the lineup of our news today, as we'll be bringing all of those development stories as well to speed. A lot of concern about these are the few headlines having for you this morning on the front pages of the papers. We'll continue to track the story. Well, it means for us to track the money, we continue to also track the government's implementation as well, and tracking what it means. But we'll go on a very quick break, everyone, just to be able to have at the top of the hour, the AM news will be coming to you. And after the AM news, we'll be having a concern and a conversation about welfares of the service chiefs and generals, of course, declared by the president upon their retirement. And subsequently, we'll also kick against looking at the reactions and concern over the distribution of CNG buses to cushion the effect of the hardship and removal of fuel subsidy. That will be top of a discussion on the program this morning. We want to stay with us at the top of the hour. AM News comes live.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Global AM News, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Anthony Momodio. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nikonsat. President Bola Tinubu has assured Ghana's President John Mahama of his support in driving change and economic prosperity for the people of Ghana. The president stated this during his speech in Accra at the inauguration of the Ghanaian leader. President Tinubu, who is also the chairman of the Economic Community and of West African State Authority of Heads of State and Government, said Nigeria, Ghana, and leaders of countries on the African continent must commit themselves to building strong economies to uplift the people. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has vowed that the 50 individuals detained for vandalizing manhole covers on Abuja roads would face prosecution. This comes after the Nigerian Police Command in the territory announced the detention of 50 suspected vandals who were caught with 25 manhole covers and solar streetlights. Wike, while reacting to the development in a statement signed by his senior special advice assistant on public communications and new media, Larry Olayinka, said the detained suspect would face the full wrath of the law to serve as a deterrent to others, emphasizing that no criminal would be spared as they would be prosecuted for economic sabotage and for endangering the lives of Nigerians. The National Assembly has set January 31st as the tentative date for passage of the 49.7 trillion naira 2025 appropriation bill presented to its joint session by President Bola Tinubu on December 18, 2024. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Solomon Adeola, stated this in Abuja at a meeting with the chairman of standing committees in the Senate. According to him, January 31st is the date for laying of reports on the appropriation bill before the Senate and the House of Representatives, noting that both chambers of the National Assembly would suspend plenary for 2 weeks for budget defense by ministries, departments, and agencies upon resumption from the Christmas and New Year break on January 14. The United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed is set to begin a 2-day official visit to Nigeria on Thursday. The National Information Officer, United Nations Information Center, Oluseyi Soro-Mekun, said during her stay she would hold discussions with President Bola Tinubu, senior government officials, and the leadership of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Retired military personnel have begun receiving credit notifications for the full payment of their long overdue entitlements. As a result, they have started leaving the protest site and dismantling the canopies and chairs they had set up to block the entrance of the Ministry of Finance headquarters in Abuja. Their actions prevented staff members from driving into the premises, forcing many to park their vehicles outside. Justice K.B. Olawoyin, presiding over Court 8 of the Oyo State High Court, has fixed Tuesday, January 14, to deliver his ruling on the bail application filed by Ooni of Ife's ex-queen, Naomi Selikunola, Alhaji Oriyomi Hamzat, and Abdullahi Fasasi. Hamzat is the proprietor of the Agidi Digbo FM, an Ibadan-based radio station, while Fasasi is the principal of the Islamic High School in Bashirum, Ibadan. They are currently standing trial over the stampede which occurred during a Christmas fun fair at the Islamic High School in Ibadan in December 2024, in an incident that claimed the lives of no fewer than 35 children. On health matters, Nigeria is at a moderate risk of the human metapneumovirus, also called HMPV, a common respiratory virus that can infect people of all ages. This is according to dynamic risk assessment conducted on January 6, 2025 by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention in collaboration with international partners, including the World Health Organization, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the UK Health Security Agency, carried out as a crucial guide for preparedness efforts and development of the effective response strategies to mitigate the potential impact of HMPV. The virus currently circulating in China and other affected regions of the world can cause illnesses ranging from mild cold-like symptoms to severe respiratory infections, particularly in young children, older adults, and individuals with weakened immune systems. The Director General of the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, Adewale Oyerinde, says all the 36 states of the Federation have no justification for not paying the new minimum wage. Oyerinde said state governments have received enough support from the federal government to be able to implement the 70,000 minimum wage signed into law in July 2024. While appearing on a TV program on January 7, 2025, Oyerinde dispelled the claim that some states may not have funds to pay 70,000 naira, stressing that the minimum wage has come to stay. The Borno Executive Council has approved the renaming of the Borno State University to Kashim Ibrahim University, Maiduguri. This is in honor of Sir Kashim Ibrahim, the first governor of northern Nigeria. The decision was taken during the first council meeting of 2025, chaired by Governor Babagana Zulum in Maiduguri. The Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Suley has inaugurated a 4-man member committee to investigate irregularities in the recent recruitment of teachers by the Nasarawa State Teachers Service Commission. Speaking during the inauguration ceremony at the Government House, Governor Suley expressed concern over reports that government officials overseeing the recruitment process exceeded the approved number of teachers. He described the revelations as worrisome, leading to the immediate suspension of the commission chairman and its members and tasking the committee with uncovering the extent of the irregularities and ensuring accountability in the recruitment process. The Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, has disclosed that 90 passengers were killed in 188 road accidents that occurred across Edo State in 2024. The state sector commander, Cyril Matthew, who disclosed this to journalists, said the accident happened between January and December 2024. He said 471 passengers were injured within that period under review. 3 individuals tragically lost their lives in Ogbomosho on Tuesday morning when a container-laden truck lost control and fell on a commercial tricycle at Taki Junction. Reports indicated that the truck, while navigating a bend, toppled its container, which then crushed the tricycle commonly known as Keke Marua. Eyewitness, who wished to remain anonymous, described the scene, stating that 2 female passengers and the tricycle rider were trapped beneath the container. The governor of Kano State, Abba Yusuf, has urged the federal government to reduce the 2025 Hajj fare to enable intending pilgrims to fulfill the religious exercise. This was disclosed in a statement issued by the governor's media aide, Sanusi Bature, in Kano, noting that the governor made the appeal given the economic challenges faced by citizens. Yusuf made the remarks during an event organized by the State Pilgrims Welfare Board to refund money remitted by Saudi Arabian authorities following a power outage during the 2023 Hajj exercise. And still in the news, the Foreign Minister of the People's Republic of China, Wang Yi, is scheduled to arrive in Abuja on Wednesday for official visit. This was announced by the acting spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kemimbi Ebimfa, who noted that during the visit, Yi, who is a member of the political bureau of the Central Committee of Communist Party of China, will engage in discussions aimed at strengthening ties between Nigeria and China. You are watching live broadcast of Global AM News coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. When Global AM News returns, Ghana's John Mahama sworn in as president, we shall bring you those details as well as that of business and sports stories right after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back from the break. In business, the National Tomato Growers, Processors and Marketers Association of Nigeria says it is seeking the intervention of the federal government to reduce post-harvest losses of the produce. Chairman of the association, Kaduna State Chapter, Rabiu Zuntu, made the call in an interview in Lagos State, noting that the government intervention will help the sector to cut down on post-harvest losses. He said with the appropriate equipment and facilities, tomato farmers would reduce post-harvest losses of the produce and increase value addition and enhance the growth of that sector. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves have recorded an increase of $591.78 million in the month following the government's $2.2 billion Eurobond auction on December 2nd, 2024. The reserve rose from $40.292 billion on December 2nd to $40.884 billion on January 3rd, 2025, reflecting a month-on-month growth of 1.47%. This growth highlights the effectiveness of the country's strategic measures in stabilizing its foreign exchange position amid mounting external and internal challenges. Indications have shown that foreign investors' participation in the Nigerian stock market has declined as foreign outflow surpassed the inflow by 12.2% year to date in November 2024. This is according to analysis from the latest data released by the Nigerian Exchange Limited, which showed that foreign investors' investment outflow year to date in November 2024 stood at 405.13 billion naira, higher than the inflow, which stood at 370.15 billion naira. On the foreign scene, John Mahama has taken the oath of office as Ghana's new president in a ceremony attended by world leaders. Mahama was sworn in at Independence Square in Accra, the Ghanaian capital. The Chief Justice of Ghana, Gertrude Tokomnu, administered the oath of office at the event to the new president who takes over from Nana Akufo-Addo, who succeeded him in 2017. Before Mahama's swearing in, Nana Jane Okpoku Ajimang was inaugurated as the country's first female vice president. The Doe won the election held in December, with Mahama returning to the post he left 7 years ago with a mission to revive Ghana's elite economy. President Emmanuel Macron faced accusations from France's remaining allies in West Africa of showing contempt towards Africans and from the left at home of neo-colonialism after lamenting that African countries forgot to say thank you for France's decade-long military deployment to fight an Islamic insurgency. France has been on the back foot in its former colonial territory of the Sahel region of Francophone West Africa after military coups in Mali in 2020, followed by a second push in 2021, Burkina Faso in 2022, and Niger in 2023 forced the withdrawal of the French troops. Britain says it plans to criminally charge people who create and share sexually explicit deepfake images to better protect women and girls. The Ministry of Justice says government also plans to designate taking intimate images without consent and installing equipment to that end as new offences, with perpetrators facing up to 2 years in prison. Britannica defines a deepfake as synthetic media, including images, videos, and audio generated by artificial intelligence technology that portrays something that does not exist in reality or events that have never occurred. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has renewed his call for the merger of Canada with the United States following the resignation of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The incoming President Trump posted on social media saying if Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariff, taxes would go way down, and Canada would be totally secured from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding Canada. Trudeau had announced his resignation on Monday, saying he would leave office as soon as the ruling Liberal Party chooses a new leader after months of slumping polls and internal division. In the meantime, the United States Congress has officially certified Donald Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential election, clearing way for his return to the White House on January 20th, 2025. The certification, which took place during a joint session of Congress on Monday, marked this final step in validating the Electoral College result from November's elections. According to Al Jazeera, Vice President Kamala Harris, Trump's Democratic rival in the race, oversaw the proceedings. French far-right politician Jean-Marie Le Pen has died at the age of 96. A family statement shared with the media says Le Pen, who had been in care facility for several weeks, died at midday on Tuesday, surrounded by his loved ones. Le Pen, a Holocaust denier and an unrepentant extremist on race, gender, and immigration, founded the French far-right National Front Party in 1972, and he reached the presidential election runoff against Jacques Chirac in 2002. In sports, Chelsea are leading the chase to sign Kobbie Mainoo in a sensational deal if the Manchester United midfielder leaves Old Trafford. Chelsea are in pole position to sign the 19-year-old if he cannot agree new terms at United, although there is bound to be competition from their Premier League rivals and big clubs abroad. United have reached a stalemate in contract talks with Mainoo's representative at Latin Europe's top clubs to the fact that he could be sold this month or at the end of the season. Tottenham have exercised their option to extend captain Son Heung-min's contract until 2026. The 32-year-old South Korean joined the Premier League club in 2015 from Bayer Leverkusen and has made 431 appearances, scoring 169 goals, the fourth on Tottenham's all-time list. Son, named club captain in August 2023, shared the Premier League Golden Boot with Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah in the 2021-2022 season after scoring 23 goals. Liverpool star Mohamed Salah has hit back at club legend Jamie Carragher, accusing him of being obsessed amid ongoing speculation about the forward's future at Anfield. The Egyptian winger, who is in the final 6 months of his contract, has been at the center of the heated exchange with Carragher as uncertainty looms over his next career move. Kariga, known for his forthright opinions, has been critical of Salah's recent behavior. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Global AM News. I am Anthony Momodu. Good morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
The people of Ghana witnessed another dimension of leadership just yesterday as John Mahama takes oath of office as re-elected president of the Republic of Ghana. They're concerned about the takeaways, the lessons, the democratic principles that was upheld in Ghana still draw a lot of commentary surrounding that inauguration. Some African leaders were in attendance, including President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a special guest of honor at that ceremony. On the show this morning, we'll try to dissect what it means for Africa in respect to our democratic journey. Democracy has to do with the government of the people. And over time, there has always been a concern over what is obtainable in Africa. Are we really having dividends of democracy in space? The African leaders living up to expectations? Has corruption been well tackled? Has all issues of unemployment been addressed in the region? Has economical efforts been upheld by different African leaders? These are a major concern, and of course, it's not unconnected to John Mahama's commitment to Ghana. Instead, is back to reset the economy of Ghana. What all of these lessons really means on the show this morning. Let's get to talk about that discussion, and of course, before we focus on all the issues. I'm being joined by my colleague Anthony Mobodu, who is live here on the show to make this conversation. Anthony, good morning. A lot of expectation about John Mahama's re-election. Those I said is a political comeback. He's coming with experience as one who has been in the Oval Office. Is coming back with the knowledge vast to handle the economy. Is coming back with more effort in addressing them. What has been your view surrounding the electoral process and now the inauguration, which to many persons said this has to do with resetting back the economy, which is said that so?
I think there are lots of similarities between Nigeria and Ghana. Before the elections, I spoke with Al-Hassan Ibrahim, who is the head of political desk of one of Ghana's biggest media houses, EIB Network. He did mention the fact that some of the challenges Nigerians electoral process is going through is the same thing, the challenges they also faced in Ghana, and he did talk about how the election process had its own challenges, and there were election violence, there was some bit of incumbency power play during the electoral process, the campaign process. And after the elections, yes, it was termed peaceful, but he also mentioned there were pockets of killings and unrest in some parts of Accra and some parts of Ghana specifically. But looking at the return back of John Mahama, just like we have Donald Trump returning back, he ruled in 2012 to 2016. And that has given him some bit of experience. And in 2016, he lost that election, came back in 2020, he lost again until this time around that he got it right. So he's coming with a lot of experience, like you rightly pointed out, not just experience. During the campaign, he campaigned under the mantra of turning around the Ghanaian economy, because that has been the problem, like Nigeria faced for inflation rates, high cost of living and all that was one of the key factors that, Ghanaians were suffering. He used that to come back to power and to show how serious he is. Just barely a few hours after his inauguration, after being declared, taking oath of office, he names Augustus Turner as his economic advisor, presidential advisor on 24-hour economy. That tells you how serious he is, and he has gone down, and he's already working, and he intends to turn around the fortunes. Good enough for Mahama. He's got the support of one of Africa's biggest economy, Nigeria, and with that support, we also had President Bola Ahmed Tinubu during his speech make a very strong statement. He's a 24-hour economy advisor, a person who was also a presidential candidate, Augustus Turner. So it tells you he's indeed ready, and Ghanaians are solidly behind him because he also did make history. This is the first time the National Democratic Congress sweeping the polls with the highest margin ever in Ghanaian history. So it tells you the Ghanaians are backing him. They believe he can get the job done. And to just put the icing on the cake, barely while the counting was going on, his rival, who is the vice president, put a call through to congratulate him already. So the handwriting was on the wall, so it tells you how massive it was. That's another big lesson Nigeria has taken.
No running to court.
Yeah, not just INEC coming to sing praises to say the Ghanaian electoral body called them to come teach them how to do it. They actually got the job done and did it well. And so I think that's something INEC has to also take away from that electoral process. And for Mr. President, I'm happy he's there, but I hope he will be taking something away from how the process played out in Ghana.
A lot of our takeaways right there, Anthony, but we'll now look at the concern about looking at the elections, because transparency was the key. Looking at Ghana's election, what INEC chairman came back to Nigeria to say was, look, Ghanaian politicians will not just jump ship more regular from one party to the other. Sometimes you see them being consistent in a political party compared to Nigeria, where one stays in a party this year and just before the next election one jumps to another party. So he said he has attributed the many challenges of elections towards this area, but when you look at the transparency of elections, which you've also highlighted, even I witnessed that the vice president of Ghana, the former vice president of Ghana, who was the presidential candidate of the opponent of John Mahama, was live there at the inauguration, also extending hands of congratulations to the president. That showed for him to even concede defeat as at the time. Before the final announcement of the electoral umpire, he had considered defeat. That those that are really having a concern. What level of transparency was upheld in elections? We've seen Nigeria introduce beavers, we've seen Nigeria introduce IF, we've seen all of these efforts, but every time one political party as the other is always accusing the electoral umpire of bias, of compromise and all of that. No one seems to always clearly come to terms of the election results of INEC. But they have been given the justification. This is what we have, these are evidence, this is what was signed, and all of those collation processes, which is still being an issue for INEC. INEC are having the trust deficit, what I said, is actually on a high side between Nigerian people, the political parties, and INEC.
I think the difference between Ghana and Nigeria in terms of when looking at the electoral body is clear. In Nigeria we have strong men leading institutions, but in Ghana we have strong institutions, and that's where the difference is, and that's why it is easier for the Ghanaian electorate, the citizenry, to believe whatever results were churning out. And one key factor was when each result for the different polling units in Accra, in other parts of Ghana, Kumasi and others, once the results were coming out, you could see that the different political parties were in agreement with what the electoral body in Ghana was churning out. It tallied with what the party agents had on ground. But in Nigeria, the case is always different. Like we saw in Edo State, what the result people had in their polling units was always different from when INEC would finally release the result. And I think that's one key factor. Then also the factor of having strong men rather than strong institution is another big problem, because the institution is trusted and they follow the due process, not minding whether it's the government in power or not, was also very key. The timeline within when the results came through was another strong factor, because the Ghanaians could see that the collation time from the counting time, then announcement, it wasn't dodgy, unlike in Nigeria where when the collation is taking place and as of the time before the result is transmitted to INEC, IRF, then before it's now finally announced, there's always this lapse of time, and that's when the questions, manipulation and rigging comes into play. So I think those are the key reasons why the Ghanaian elections went smoothly. That's not to say there were not some sort of violence, but those violence were more of a very minute, and they were for different reasons, not necessarily that their votes were not counted. So I think that's a very strong thing INEC has to look at.
President Tinubu said, change your negative view about Africa. He made a statement to African leaders, change your negative view about Africa, which a lot of personas continue to look at the region, Africa, and of course looking at Nigeria, a big brother role. I mean, the hopes that Nigeria is always wanting things to work well in Africa, but I said you've not even solved your own problem. You know, you're having a concern and confusion about getting to address regional issues. President Tinubu, chairman of ECOWAS, so he was a special guest, and of course he actually made that statement about how African leaders should view Africa, that they should change their negative view. That those are pointing a concern. What is the major problem of Africa? They have attributed problem of Africa to issue of leadership, issue of corruption, mismanagement of resources, and all of that. Now people pointed hands towards external influences to be the problems that we are facing in the country. And when we look at view, positive or negative view that is set, who are those that are really having this view? Is it the leaders on their part to do the right things and to get things work, or is it the citizens who are patriotic enough in believing that Africa will always get what it ought to be or where it ought to be?
I think it's more like African leaders doing the talk but not doing the work. What they say is different from what they do. And if you realize recently in the West African region, there was this continuous coups from 2020, 2022, 2023, where we had Niger, Burkina Faso, all of them go towards the military era, because they tend to have lost faith in the democratic dispensation, and the positivity it's supposed to bring is not bringing it. And also looking at Nigeria, for instance, you would see that there's a deliberate attempt by this present administration to ensure that the welfare of the military, of the judiciary, these two key arms, are top-notch in order to always get their buy-in whenever there was need or they needed support from these two arms. If not, the big question is how come the education sector, the health sector, these two very important sectors do not get the budgetary allocation, do not get that kindness from the government. We saw the FCT minister, we saw the continuous building of houses, gifts to the judiciary, which smacks of some hidden agenda. Even just yesterday, there was a rollout of new improved welfare package by Mr. President to retired generals, bulletproof cars, $20,000 for medical, trip, then for their housekeepers, and so it just smacks of misplacement of priority. I'm not saying the military is not important, because when you have you must have peace, unity before you can go. But the sudden attention by this government, you could see that they are scared of what's playing out in this West African region, the Sahel region, and that's why they are doing this. So it tells you that they know the right thing to do, but they choose not to do it because it doesn't favor them. But whatever would favor them, they will go ahead to do it. Like you rightly pointed out, Mr. President is going out there to try to solve the the issues and challenges of the region. But back home, the challenges as much as we have in the region. So if they can put as much effort as they put in the military and the judiciary to other sectors of our national lives, you can imagine what that would do. The big question is, you're giving $20,000 for medical trip. So are you saying you are encouraging this, trip outside the country? So in disadvantage to our own health sector. So it shows you
is a morale booster.
So if you're being sincere, you should put our health sector in good shape. They don't need to go outside. So it tells you that their mindset is twisted. They're not doing it for the good of the people like they claim to. They do it for their own selfish interests. And as long as African leaders continue to put their interests before the interests of the nation and the interests of the masses, then we're going to keep seeing this consistent coup taking place in different parts of the country. Just yesterday, Emmanuel Macron was saying African countries were ungrateful. I feel like stucking that back into his mouth, because this same Emmanuel Macron was in Lagos in Nigeria to come learn the ropes of governance, and suddenly he's saying that. And that's why some political analysts are really sad with the federal government for trying to parley with the French government recently, when other African countries, the Francophone countries which they colonized, are kicking them out of their countries. Nigeria is having an open arms to the French country, so it makes it very suspicious.
So should that attribute to the allegations raised by the Nigerian leader?
That was why they were hosting. You were hosting, and we're getting funding from the French to destabilize a region. It's very shameful and embarrassing to say France is funding us to do such a thing. Like, we're now babies. We're one of Africa's biggest economy, and I think that it's a very sad commentary that the government couldn't read in between the lines.
I mean, a lot of points right there today. Look at a case of a first female vice president. It's also a unique one for Ghana. Looking at the trajectory of, women participation in politics in Africa. Those that are saying it really looks at it's also a way of encouraging women participation. What lessons can, for instance, Nigeria also learn in that? We also see few women participation also in Nigeria in the Senate and the House of Representatives. We also had an attempt to have witnessed the first female governor from Adamawa State. You recall the incident that almost occurred from Adamawa. So, but is a concern about lessons on how Africa has continued to also prioritize issues of gender equality as well in terms of the political development. Ghana's first female vice president from the classroom as a professor and now as a vice president of that country. Would you say that in a way this means so well for inclusivity in the region?
Well, talking about the first vice president being female, yes, it's good news for Ghanaians, but I think Africa has done even more than that. We've seen Sierra Leone, who got Salif Johnson, who was the president of Liberia, I beg your pardon. So it tells you Africa has gotten great women who have also served and done great things. But narrowing it down to Nigeria, that's the big question. Can Nigerian politicians and Nigerian political parties, do they trust the might of Nigerian women to get the job done, to be given that opportunity? Because obviously what played out in Ghana wasn't just because she was that good, like you rightly pointed out, from the classroom to where she is now tells you that she has not always been there, but she was also given the support to get where she is right now. Can Nigerian political parties, would they be firm enough to give the Nigerian women that opportunity to get the job done, is a big question. We're having a 2-day visit by Amina Mohammed, who is part of the United Nations. For someone who has gotten to that level, tells you she has the quality. We've got Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who was re-elected as the World Trade DG. That's no mean feat. She's among the first few leaders in the world to be elected twice for that same position. It tells you that they see that she's bringing quality, value, and a lot of change to that organization. So for Nigeria, I think this is not a big question for political parties. Another interesting question for Mr. President. I'm happy his wife is a senator. Would he have the faith that his wife can become the next president of Nigeria? That's the top big question, and I think this is an equation that the Nigerian political space has to answer. Is it time for Nigerian women to be given a shot at the presidency, not just vice president, but this time becoming the president of this great country?
A lot of takeaways and lessons to learn from Ghana's inauguration, presidential inauguration. John Mahama's comeback return, looking a major political comeback for one who had lost the seat after his first tenure, and now having a second chance again to reset. He said, I'm resetting the economy, and a lot of expectation. He also made a commitment that he's hitting the ground running as well from the one. President Bola Tinubu, the chairman of ECOWAS, was also there as a special guest of honor, reaffirming his commitment, partnership in driving and fighting poverty within those both nations. And a lot of major economic variables are looking also at the projection about what it means for Africa, what it means for Nigeria, what it means for Ghana, as at a time like this, very critical that, he's having the chance again to get things worse. Anthony, before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think President Bola Tinubu is actually trying to mend fences with Ghana. We know that in the last administration, Muhammadu Buhari, we had some issues with Ghana, even though, yes, we've always been rivals in terms of football and jollof rice. But looking at...
Which one tastes better? Have you tasted Ghana's jollof?
I've not, because I think...
I'm a Ghana jollof.
I will not trust your judgment, but this aside, because of the closure of that Semi and Kere border, there was this economic, disadvantage that fell on the part of the Ghanaians, and that didn't sit well with Ghana, and so we also did have a repercussion by the Ghanaian authorities taking some other steps and decisions that didn't favor Nigeria. So I think President Bola Tinubu is trying to right the wrongs of the last administration and to better cement the relationship between Nigeria and Ghana. It's good enough to know that both countries and both leaders have agreed to see how they can tackle the issue of unemployment, insecurity, and economic issues facing both countries. And don't forget, Nigeria and Ghana share a lot, regardless of the fact that they are rivals. They have a lot in common, which, if they duly join forces, they might be able to tackle those issues. And we're hoping that the fact that John Mahama has been there before coming back, and the fact that he did visit Nigeria a couple of times even before he got elected, that bond and that relationship would hopefully transform the economic relationships between Nigeria and Ghana, and probably reduce the number of the rivalry between both countries. And good enough, Nigeria has gotten it's been 1-1 at par when it comes to the rivalry in the sporting arena recently. So I think a fair deal for both countries.
And Super Eagles has got a new coach.
All right, that's we're going to give you all those big stories.
Because it's also breaking on, of course, I'm more concerned as a sports journalist as well.
All right, because of all right, we would like to save the best for last, like they say.
Always save the best for the last. All right, everyone. This is why I will let Anthony Momodu take a break from the show. A lot of concern about Ghana's inauguration as well. Expectation for the people of Ghana, most especially as economic corruption still tops the agenda of what John Mahama said he's prioritizing as he returns back to the overall office as the president of the Republic of Ghana. What are the lessons to learn? Can all African leaders also pay attention to the democratic principles that have been upheld in the election, and also pay attention in addressing the challenges of the people of Africa? This is still attacks on the decks of many African leaders. We'll now be turning our attention to the concern of the compressed natural gas buses, that CNG, which has also sparked concern. Government had introduced CNG to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. How far has this gone? How well implemented? How well distributed? On the show after the break, I'll be joined by A former NAN Senate President will be joining us on the show and giving us an insight about where NANs have kicked against the distribution of some of the CNG buses. Do stay with us. I'll be right back.